So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for your attention. My name is Kadan Stadelmann. As aforementioned, I'm the head of tech at the Komodo platform, which is a blockchain project, open source oriented, and we're actually working decentralized. So, last couple of days I've been thinking about a very important topic in our commerce, and that's actually crowdfunding. The topic that I'll also be handling today is the future, the evolution of crowdfunding. We call it like crowdfunding 3.0. As we know, crowdfunding is a topic that's been around for actually a couple of 100 years. So many people relate crowdfunding to platforms as Kickstarter, GoFundMe, and so on. But if we go back in history, we actually see that even Amadeus Mozart, a very famous Austrian musician, did some sort of crowdfunding while giving like people, a crowd, giving them invitations, manuscripts in exchange for funds to get his concerts funded. In 1884, the New York World newspaper held a crowdfund with Joseph Pulitzer to fund and finance the base platform for the Statue of Liberty. There were like around $100,000 gathered from more than 160,000 people across the whole USA. In 2003, we've seen like the first centralized online crowdfunding platform. It's called ArtistShare. It was basically a website for indie artists. That means musicians, photographers, vloggers, and so on. And Maria Schneider is like a jazz composer from the US. She was able to fund her jazz ensemble, which 2 years later, in 2005, won the Grammy Award. So thanks to ArtistShare, a platform developed by Brian Komodo, who is actually also a musician and a computer programmer, she was able to get the Grammy Award. In 2009, the platform Kickstarter, probably the most successful and known crowdfunding platform, went online. In the first years, we've seen like funds flowing into the projects of around $100 to $200 million. A couple of years later, they already cracked the billion mark, showed just the potential, the huge market of crowdfunding. Where crowdfunding, just to mention this and make it clear, is a process of gathering funds from a big crowd, from many people. Mostly it's like there are little investments, little crowdfunds, and gaining a lot of funds for whatever projects I want to be. In 2014, 2013 actually, we've seen a phenomenon in the online business. It's called ICOs. It's actually an initial coin offering based on Bitcoins. So people presented their projects and were able to collect funds through centralized websites, through their own platforms, to fund their projects on a long term. And in 2017, a couple of months ago, we from the Komodo platform, we've made a proposal and published a scientific paper for something called DICO. We refer to DICO as the decentralized version of the traditional ICOs. So just to name a couple of projects funded by a traditional crowdfunding campaign, such as Kickstarter, for example, which actually gained a lot of attraction and eventually were sold for big money. If we look at Oculus VR, it's like the biggest producer of virtual reality glasses, they gathered 2.4 million US dollars. And a couple of years ago, they were sold to Facebook. Actually, Facebook made an offer and bought them off for more than 2 billion US dollars. The whole history began on Kickstarter. The second project, which also personally attracted me a lot, was Pebble. It was like a smartwatch, which had a lot of functionalities, but was created in a more open source way. It means the technology, the process of creating this device was done while involving the whole community. It gained a lot of attraction. It was announced as one of the most successful crowdfunding projects back in that time. And that was like in 2015 with around 20 million US dollars. So what's Komodo actually? Well, we see ourselves as a global and pretty mighty open source blockchain framework. That means anybody could build something on top of our layer. We were talking about decentralized applications, blockchain initializations, and so on. We've built something we call the Business Starter Kit. That means young startups, entrepreneurs are able to utilize our framework. First of all, create their own blockchain, fully independent of our blockchain. This is basically possible with just a single click. And you'll get your own fully decentralized and independent blockchain while inheriting the whole functionality that our platform is offering. Furthermore, we're offering a crowdfunding instrument which is the base for this DICO, which I explain more detailed later. And the technology is based on Komodo, which is our native cryptocurrency, and Zcash protocol, which actually is, from a technological point of view, a system that allows fully anonymous transactions which are not able to be tracked back to the sender. And the reason for this technology is that we weight privacy very high and believe that financial freedom is a right every human should enjoy in this society. So our native cryptocurrency, as aforementioned, has another security feature I'll just mention very shortly. And actually we're recycling the hashing power of Bitcoin. Means in regular intervals we take the Komodo blockchain header informations and we store it into the Bitcoin blockchain. That means, let's say one day, for whatever reason, there's an attack ongoing on the Komodo platform blockchain, we will be able to fall back on Bitcoin's blockchain and use Bitcoin's blockchain as our blockchain, as we're storing our blockchain information into the Bitcoin blockchain. It's a unique system called DPoV. I'm one of the co-founders of this system. We've invented that around 2 years ago. The implementation took place in late 2016. Now back to the ICO. So actually, what is an ICO? What does this stand for? What does it mean? An ICO is an initial coin offering. If I talk to traditional bankers, VCs, investment guys, I always tell them you could actually compare it somehow to an IPO. But whereas the IPO actually is always equity-based, an ICO has different models. It can be equity-based, it can be reward-based, it can be even donation-based. I mean, we've seen everything the last couple of years. We've seen projects giving away equity. They are being registered as official securities. We've seen projects who actually just give you utilized tokens. That means you'll get a reward. Like on Kickstarter, if you invested, if you supported the project, in exchange you'll get a CD, you'll get an example of the project, well, whatever, you'll get a reward back. And in exchange for an ICO participation, you will get tokens sent to you. And what's like the big point of ICOs? It's actually that they are not regulated. And a lot of projects actually, currently it's more or less a wild, wild west in this ecosphere. I want to mention a couple of ICOs who recently gained a lot of value. I'll start with Tezos. It's actually the last one on the list, but one I'm personally very interested in because I've been following the development pretty close. At the time of the fundraise, the value of investment was set to around 230 million US dollars. By today, the funds the Tezos Foundation is holding are quite over 800 million US dollars due to the rising price of cryptocurrencies. We've seen Bancor also raised around 150 million US dollars. And due to the rise of cryptocurrencies prices, we've seen this evolving to around 600 million US dollars in value. In comparison to an ICO, the DICO system that we developed is based on a so-called decentralized exchange. That means that any participant or issuer of an ICO token is dealing with the other party fully direct. So there is no intermediate entity, there is no third party like controlling, handling or regulating this transaction. So in fact, we implemented a system called Atomic Swap Protocol, which allows you to exchange Bitcoin for Komodo tokens, for Litecoins, and this happens in a fully peer-to-peer, decentralized and blockchain-based way. If you look at other ICOs who are taking place fully centralized, means you have to trust somebody, means you don't know who you are dealing with, it means it's not transparent in fact, so you're pretty much on a risk. We believe that the DICO system built the basic layer for real financial freedom, as every single human is pursuing for. And we believe that every human should have the right and liberty to participate or issue an investment in a manner that allows you to make sure that it fulfills your privacy rights and it fulfills your financial freedom rights. And therefore we think it's clearly time to rethink the crowdfunding as we know it and move on to a system that will allow anybody on this planet, regardless of excess wealth, regardless of geolocation, to participate or to issue an ICO, a crowdfund campaign, to fund his or her startup idea. And at this point, I thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions left, please feel free to ask.
Jeśli nie ma żadnych pytań, Kadan, I would like to ask you.
You told that the ICO is based on Bitcoin, but it's actually based on Ethereum, right? Yes.
Please use microphone.
Okay, I'll repeat. Okay, so the question was that I said that the ICO was based on Bitcoin while the gentleman said it's based on Ethereum. The very first ICO was actually in 2013. I personally invested in that ICO. It was Mastercoin, and they only accepted Bitcoin as a payment. The second ICO was, well, the second very big ICO was actually Ethereum. Ethereum was created during an ICO campaign. They collected around 25 million US dollars and they just accepted Bitcoin as a payment. So the Ethereum platform itself is based on an ICO fully based on Bitcoin. Every single ICO that came afterwards was based just on Bitcoin. Some started accepting other different coins, and this Ethereum crowdfunding campaign story started around one and a half year ago. That means people were actually creating smart contracts on the Ethereum platform, and people could participate while investing via Ethereum. This was like a pretty clever match by Vitalik, because in the end people had to buy Ethereum first, means there was a natural demand generated continuously, and then invested it into those projects. But Ethereum was actually like the last platform that allowed it. And there's like one big negative point about this. If you create your Ethereum-based token, you rely on the Ethereum blockchain. This means you don't have capabilities such as multi-signature, pay-to-script hash transaction systems. You really rely just on Ethereum. You are in a closed ecosystem, and you don't have the ability to, for example, issue cross-chain atomic swaps. But in comparison to the Komodo platform, we are not charging any fuel. We're fully open source based. That means you can, with a single click, create your own blockchain, participate, issue your own DICO. Will not charge a single cent. We had our own very small ICO 1.5 years ago. We collected around 2 million US dollars, but luckily we were able to reinvest this money in other decentralized applications and gathered now project funds worth around 480 million US dollars. That means we are able to fully focus on this technology, to only develop it. We are not charging anything. We don't have enterprise models. We don't have any subscription plans. We don't have any paid licensing fees. So it's fully open source. It's free. That's a big difference.
Okay, and but you told that you are dependent on Bitcoin, right? Because
we are fully independent for the case that one day, let's say, a multi-trillionaire builds a big hashing farm, okay, with thousands of GPUs, and says, okay, I want to attack the Komodo platform now. He starts hashing, he gains more than 51% hashing power, cracks our blockchain. What happens now? At this point, the Komodo blockchain will fall back on the Bitcoin blockchain and then use the Bitcoin blockchain as a checkpoint validator.
Oh, okay.
So it's a security layer. It's not needed now, but it's just an additional security.
Thank you.
I thank you for your questions.